What up, Homedawgs? My name is Gokey Gamer, coach of the Milwaukee Meta Champs, and welcome everybody to week 1 of the CMM Mudkip division, where this week we're going to be taking on Squeaks and the Craighead County Crawdons. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this matchup is going to be quite scary. Here it is. What? Some extremely threatening Pokemon like Roaring Moon, Terra Iron Crown that can terastallize into a Steel, Water, or Fairy type, Hisuian Zoroark, Rotom Heat, Sylveon, Terra Crawdon that can turn into a Water, Poison, or Fairy type, Volcanion, Kilowattrel, Donphan, Chestnut, and finally, Toxicroak. I think the top 3 and Terra Crawdon are absolutely must-brings in this matchup, alongside possibly Sylveon and Toxicroak, although I could also easily see Volcanion or Kilowattrel coming instead. The reason I think the top 3 in Crawdon come is because that combination just absolutely destroys most of my team, including Spectrier, Toxapex, Conkeldurr, and Indeedee. Combine that with Sylveon for more special defensive coverage and fairy attacks, and Toxicroak for possible Sucker Punch shenanigans, and all of a sudden Spectrier is going to have a really hard time. Here's the team that I decided to bring for this matchup. Long story short, I'm hoping that Deoxys, Toxapex, and Clefable can chip down teams over time and prevent sweeps. Indeedee is there for Healing Wish and Trick Room, and hopefully Spectrier or Conkeldurr can bring this game home with the Life Orb sweep. If you'd like a more detailed analysis, you can check out my Ko-fi page where all members get access to around 8-minute team breakdowns to enjoy, as well as battles a day early. When I'm not too busy, that is. I'm sorry for these videos going up so late. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and head into the battle. Hey everybody, post-commentary Gokey here. Now, the reason I'm deciding to do a post-commentary for this video isn't because the audio or video recording got messed up, thankfully. However, the reason is, spoiler for this game, I played extremely badly. I felt like the live commentary wasn't really going to add much to the quality of the video because of how poorly I played, whereas I felt like the post-commentary could provide helpful analysis as to what went wrong in this game and how I could have done better. So I hope you still enjoy this video as I break down what went wrong in this game and why Toxapex is no longer a part of this team. Also, as a side note, since I'm literally recording this today, this video is supposed to go up, there won't be that many edits from here on out, so I apologize in advance, and I will also be doing a live commentary. The rest of this will not be scripted. However, I promise to do my best to cut out any pauses in commentary. So entering the game, we see Roaring Moon, Crawdon, Donphan, Hisuian Zoroark, Rotom Heat, and Toxicroak. I'm immediately shocked not to see Iron Crown on this team, as that Pokemon not being here is absolutely amazing for Clefable and Toxapex. I go with my dedicated lead Deoxys, who I couldn't nickname for some reason, to hopefully bait out a Dark type to click Knockoff as I click Counter. Taunt in case Donphan tries to set up Rock since I didn't bring Hazard Removal, or figure out what Hisuian Zoroark is disguised as. Immediately from my first mistake in hindsight, I really could have brought Zarude to this game. The main reason I didn't was because I figured Terra Fairy Iron Crown was a must-bring, and Zarude really couldn't do much against an Iron Defense build, or a defensive Sylveon for that matter. However, in hindsight, Zarude really didn't have that bad of a matchup in this game, and I could have easily brought them over Indeedee or Toxapex. Regardless, we go with our lead Deoxys, as we see our opponent actually leads with none other than Toxicroak, which is amazing for us, because this Deoxys is built to be a physically defensive wall. Psychic Noise is extremely spammable here. I could click Taunt just in case this thing tries to set up on me. I believe we do have enough speed to outspeed a non-speed invested Toxicroak as well. If I'm remembering correctly, that is anyways. So we just end up clicking Psychic Noise for absolutely free, as my opponent ends up switching into Rotom Heat. So overall, getting chip on this thing is absolutely amazing. If this thing has leftovers, then it can't heal with the leftovers, which is very nice, and we can still kind of stay in against this thing, even though it didn't deal that much damage. The damage also reveals that this is in fact not Hisuian Zoroark, which is always good to know. I end up going for a taunt here just to see if this thing is faster than me or not, and it reveals that this thing is actually not faster than me, which is good to know. We also do this just to prevent a Will-O-Wisp or anything like that. We do end up seeing a Volt Switch, which does a decent chunk of damage, but thankfully not that much. However, the main thing with chip is I do have to worry about Pokemon like Roaring Moon come in, because Knockoff could be in a kill range at this point if it is a booster energy set, or Choice Band for that matter. So my opponent here ends up actually switching into Drax, which is none other than Donphan. So in theory, I could still completely wall this thing, and I could very easily go for a taunt to prevent the rocks going up. However, I am very scared of this being like a Choice Specs Hisuian Zoroark set. So what I end up doing is I decide to switch out into the Butler, hoping that this is a Hisuian Zoroark. So we end up switching our Deoxys out as we go into the Butler to set up our Psychic Surge and to hopefully tank whatever this possible Hisuian Zoroark wants to throw at me. And what we end up seeing here is my opponent does go for rocks. Now, do I think this was a bad play by me? No. I think this was a very smart bring. I think the bad play for me here is more into the prep. I think Rocky Helmet here was the wrong bring in hindsight. I did think about bringing the Cassib Berry, which I believe is the berry for the ghost type attacks, to help have damage against that. That's what I should have brought here, and I should have just clicked Taunt if I had that berry. If I had the berry every single time I clicked Taunt here, and the rocks would not be up right now. Unfortunately, the rocks are here to stay, which is not good for the rest of my team, just because my team does not like getting chipped down. So here I just go for a raw Draining Kiss, predicting a possible dark type switch in, but my opponent actually ends up staying in and clicks Ice Spinner. Very, very good play by my opponent, and unfortunately the psychic terrain is gone, which is a little bit of an oversight in prep for me. I think I should have just clicked Expanding Force predicting the Ice Spinner, but again, it is what it is. Now that I know that this is the real Donphan, I'm just like, you know what, this gives me a good opportunity to bring Deoxys in. Either this one clicks knockoff and gets rid of my Rocky Helmet, which is good to prevent future knockoff users from just KOing me, or I can just get a free recover off as long as they don't double, and that could be very nice. We do just see a raw Earthquake here, which does a decent chunk of damage, but reveals that we are physically defensive and we can just recover on this thing very easily. So my opponent ends up switching out and they go into Thor in an Oven, which is the Rotom Heat, which makes sense. Once again, being able to easily tank the Psychic Noise really makes a lot of sense. However, we are able to get back up to full, which is very nice, and this thing ultimately can't really deal that much damage to me. I do wish I was slower than this Pokemon, just so that way they could get a faster Volt Switch and we could just go for a raw taunt. However, I'm just like, you know what, might as well just go for a Psychic Noise. Psychic Noise will deal more chip against this thing, which is always nice, and it could also catch a Pokemon on switch in as well. We do go for the Psychic Noise here, which does a decent chunk of damage, as I believe my opponent here once again goes for a Volt Switch. Yes, they do in fact go for a Volt Switch here, and I believe, I can't remember exactly what they go into here. So we see Vision come out here, which by the way, I love the Marvel nicknames as well, which is the Roaring Moon. And we see that this thing doesn't have a booster item, which is very interesting. This is my first major mistake of this game. I go for a recover here thinking I could possibly take a hit, and we see Hex. This is a Hisuian Zoroark. The first mistake of this game was assuming that this thing was actually the Roaring Moon. And the reason being is because in hindsight, I really easily could have just swapped into the Butler here, which is what I do now. Because of the fact that, hey, we didn't see a booster energy, there's a very good chance that this is in fact not Roaring Moon. So every single time here, I easily should have just gone into Indeedee on the most likely Hisuian Zoroark. Even if Indeedee goes down here, it ultimately wasn't going to do that much in this game other than wall Hisuian Zoroark. So if this was a Hisuian Zoroark, we would be incredibly rewarded. If it wasn't, then it is what it is. I believe here I went for an Expanding Force, if I remember correctly. Or no, I went for Trick Room because of Room Service. I went for Room Service Trick Room against this Hisuian Zoroark, so that way I can just start spamming Expanding Force and Draining Kiss. Obviously, we see my opponent switch out here and they go into Thor in an Oven, which thankfully we will outspeed thanks to the Room Service being active. So we set up our Trick Room, which is very nice, and now we can just click Expanding Force or Draining Kiss for free. This was really fun tech, I will say. I definitely enjoyed bringing the Room Service to this matchup. I think this was a very, very fun Indeedee set, and I honestly don't think I would change much with it, because ultimately Indeedee is going to deal a decent chunk of damage to everything that wants to switch in against this thing, and we can just click Draining Kiss on the Dark types in the next turn for free. So here we click Expanding Force, and Rotom Heat is gone, which is very, very nice. We love to see it. A very, very free button click for Indeedee as well. Very, very nice. 1 down, 5 to go. Now, after the game, my opponent actually did talk about how they really did not have many switch-ins for Indeedee, which in hindsight, I could have really taken to my advantage, as that was very true. Draining Kiss was still going to do a lot of damage to Roaring Moon. We also had Healing Wish as well, which is very nice. So I think I could have played with Indeedee a little bit better in this game, but it is what it is. So we end up seeing Drax, the Donphan, come in here, and unfortunately, even at -1, we don't outspeed this thing, which is very unfortunate. So I believe what I end up doing here is I go into Big Top with Terra Fighting to hopefully just nuke something off the face of the earth. And that's exactly what I end up doing here. We do take some damage, and as we see the Ice Spinner pop off, which is fine. It's not going to deal that much damage. And here I can just very freely go for a Drain Punch here, or a Knockoff. I could honestly do either or. Drain Punch would obviously heal me up significantly, and Knockoff would cover the Hisuian Zoroark, as well as get rid of an item. So I end up just clicking Raw Knockoff, just because I think that's a very free button click. And I also opt to save my Terra type, just because I don't want to reveal it quite yet, just in case my opponent might be still thinking I could be Terra Steel or Terra Fairy. Or not Terra Fairy, Terra Sight. So we end up clicking Knockoff here, which does a really big chunk to Donphan right here. And Donphan ends up going for Earthquake, and we also reveal our Life Orb, unfortunately. So we see Earthquake here, the raw EQ. I think here every single time I should, because Trick Room was still up, I think every single time I should have just clicked Terra Fighting Drain Punch, because Hisuian Zoroark still doesn't want to come in. So that was another major mistake. Well, not major mistake, but a minor mistake. Because Trick Room was still up, I could have easily just clicked Terra Fighting Drain Punch. Even if Hisuian Zoroark comes in on that turn, I just click Knockoff on the next turn, and then it dies. Or if it's Focus Sash, then it immediately gets taken down to Sash, which is obviously also very nice. Regardless, during this next next turn, my opponent ends up opting to switch out, and I'm really hoping Hisuian Zoroark doesn't come in here, and thankfully it's not Hisuian Zoroark, but actually Toxicroak. So we reveal our Terra Fighting, and we're going to deal half of Toxicroak's HP. I'm going to go ahead and skip forward to that, actually, just because, yeah. And this thing also reveals that it is Black Sludge as well. You see how much damage that actually did, which was absolutely amazing. And now I'm like, okay, Toxapex is not going to be that useful in this matchup. I'm going to go into Toxapex. So we end up switching out our Terracon Keldor, and we go into Merciful the Toxapex for free, just because we can take anything this thing wants to throw at me. And this thing ends up going for a Swords Dance. Or no, it's a Poison Jab, never mind. We just go for raw Poison Jab. So overall, very, very nice. Now, here is where I'm going to start talking about Toxapex a little bit. Toxapex was very hard to prep for in this game because there was not much it realistically could do to prevent setup from happening. Yes, I could go for Infestation, but you'll soon see that this Toxicroak goes for a Swords Dance, and that makes me very scared. Every single time here, I should have clicked Haze. Every single time I should have clicked Haze, as that would prevent the setup, you know, all that fun stuff. And I literally just said that, you know, this Pokemon can't prevent setup, but you'll soon see that this Toxicroak does actually have a way to take on this Toxapex, which is not very fun. I go for Haze here every single time, and my opponent reveals Earthquake! And that's a dead Toxapex. Very unfortunate here. Toxapex just goes down immediately to this Toxicroak, and here is where everything just kind of goes to crap. Obviously, every single time I go into the Butler here, as I do have enough EVs to outspeed a speed-creeping Toxicroak. I remember this very clearly. We set up the Psychic Surge, and I actually end up going for a Trick Room over an Expanding Force here. The reason being is because I'm thinking, oh, a Dark type could easily come in here, and then I'm screwed. What I should have done here, I should have done anything other than this move. Healing Wish, Draining Kiss, Expanding Force, anything would be better than Trick Room, because I forgot that Trick Room has negative priority. So yeah, I really should have attacked what was in front of me here and just gone for the Expanding Force, as I did find out afterwards that I did have enough speed to outspeed this Toxicroak, and this Toxicroak could have just straight up died. So that was my first major mistake. I really should have just clicked Draining Kiss, Healing Wish, or Expanding Force. Again, I get why I didn't in the moment, because there are still two Dark types alive, but Toxicroak is not going to have a great switch in any other point in this game. So I should have just clicked either a damaging move or Healing Wish. This was my second mistake. I go into this thing because I'm like, well, the Sucker Punch, they can't click Sucker Punch, surely I can live. I can calc it, I live everything at this point. And I can just go for a Calm Mind. The problem with this is I forgot to calc Toxicroak at +2. And you'll soon see that was my second major mistake, because guess what? Spectrier ends up going down here. Now granted, they do go down to a critical hit. I don't know if the critical hit mattered here. I don't think it did, if I remember correctly. If it did, it was still a roll to KO anyways, and the crit just guaranteed it. But this was a really major mistake by me, as at this point, all I have are two Pokemon that are alive that Toxicroak can easily deal with. I go into Pinky here because I don't have a choice, and I'm like, okay, at this point, I have to go for, like, a Nightshade or Moonblast or something like that. And at this point, like, I've basically lost this game. So I go for a Moonblast here. I was hoping to get Conkeldurr in to reliably get HP recovery, and we just see Poison Jab. Poison Jab KOs me. Well, it doesn't KO me, but we do get poisoned, which was also just rubbing salt in the wound here. And, yeah, we reveal our Citrus Berry, thankfully. But, you know, again, there's no point, because we don't KO this thing with a Moonblast, and this game is just all but over. This is the big reason why I decided to get rid of Toxapex. Toxapex just, if a Pokemon's set up on it, and I don't click Haze on that turn, Toxapex just does not have a good time. And like, again, Toxapex is just way too passive on a team that's already pretty passive as is. So that's a big reason why I decided to get rid of Toxapex in this game. Rest in peace, Pinky. You did things for sure. This is also why I got rid of Probopass too. Both Pokemon were just too passive on my team, and that's why I ended up picking up Vileplume and Swampert. Because not only can Swampert pivot and also click Knockoff and do a few other things as well, it was just like, you know what, at this point, let's just do that. Also, you'll notice here that I click Mach Punch forgetting that Psychic Terrain is up. That, I mean, regardless, like, we still lost this game, obviously, because Mach Punch wasn't even a KO. This thing could just click a move and just KO me in return, and yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, that's why this battle really solidified to me, like, Toxapex just needed to go. And we do see that Toxicroak sweeps me, 5-0 victory to my opponent. Very, very unfortunate. Toxicroak picked up like 5 KOs in this game that it should not have been able to pick up. I easily could have made this a much closer game, but I just threw all of my answers away to it. Every single time, like, I should have KO'd with Indeedee, I should have just gone for the KO with Spectrier, I should have just gone for the KO with anything, like, everything else. And, like, yeah, the crit didn't help, the poison didn't help, but ultimately, like, I heavily threw this game away because of the plays that I made. There's some plays here that I don't regret, like I don't regret not clicking Taunt with Deoxys, but I do regret not bringing the Kasib Berry in hindsight, and again, ultimately, I also regret Deoxys going down to the Hisuian Zoroark. That was a major throw by my part. So unfortunately, the week 1 curse is particularly strong in this league as we go 0-5. However, I am really hoping to bounce back. I think with our new additions with Swampert and Vileplume over Toxicroak and Probopass will really help me out in future prep. And I'm very excited because, yeah, I think we'll have a decent chance to really start making a comeback. That being said, our next opponent is literally the perfect counter to my team, so hopefully we do well. But regardless, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you all enjoyed. Again, I apologize that I couldn't give you all a better week 1 game, but hopefully week 2 will be going much better, and week 2 I should have live commentary unless something goes wrong with the recording, or I do very badly again, which I don't think I'll do very badly, because, spoiler alert, we're bringing some really fire tech for our week 2 game. That'll be all for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Peace out, mates!